Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 horror film The Demon Disorder. The film is co-written and directed by Stephen Boyle, and the film stars Charles Cottier, Dirk Hunter and John Noble. Now, this is an Australian horror film that focuses on a family. Now, this family has had a difficult past. They had trouble with their father, George, who it would appear had something very, very wrong with him. They dealt with that, moved on, moved forward. Some years later, the kind of family is split apart. It's three brothers. And that one of the brothers turns up at his other brother's door and basically says, "You have to come home. There's something wrong with our younger brother." He has no choice but to go back, as it would appear that the same thing that happened to their father is happening to their younger brother, and it would appear that something evil is taking him from within. It's up to the two brothers to figure out what is going on, how they can prevent it before it's too late. Right, what are my thoughts on The Demon Disorder? Well, this is a Shudder exclusive, I believe it is, and it's Shudder are a bit hit and miss with some of their originals. I think for the most part, I think they don't do a bad job at all, and I think this has elements to it that are really very watchable. It kind of combines a few different subgenres within a genre, if you like. It's a horror film. It deals with demonic possession to some degree. It's got body horror. There's a few things going off here with this. I think the biggest issue I think that most people are going to have with this film is the pacing. It's dreadfully slow to start with till it kind of gets going, and then it almost becomes Lovecraftian by the end. You know what I mean? It's like it gets very, very graphic, and like I said, the body horror clicks into another gear, and I think horror fans in general will be quite satisfied with what they get in the second part of the film, I think, rather than what they get in the first part of the film. Now, I don't generally mind sometimes slow-paced films if the build-up is interesting enough, if the premise is interesting enough, if the characters are interesting enough. And unfortunately, they're not really here. We've got these three brothers. One of them is deeply unlikable, and it just feels like there's something quite sinister about him, or he's just an arse. You can't really figure it out. Another one is kind of the one in the middle, the brother that kind of got away. He's like the most sensible one, probably, the most grounded one, the one really that isn't really interested in going back, but he doesn't have a choice. And then you've got the younger one, the one that's showing the signs that the father had. And while you do get to see in flashbacks kind of what they went through with the father, it's enough to kind of piece some of the pieces together, some of the puzzle pieces together. But I just kept thinking that's the film I wanted to see. The bit with the father. You just get snippets of that, really, of this, and it's a very powerful performance as well by John Noble, who plays the father. And it kind of plays around, like I say, with the concept of demonic possession, but it does it in quite a unique way. It's almost like it's a disease that kind of grows from within, that you can catch almost, and it's quite an interesting way of doing it. And there's some very, very disturbing imagery that goes on in this. I mean, there's one bit in particular that kind of made me cringe. Well, there's a handful that made me kind of cringe. And it almost at times becomes like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers type film then. And you just kind of a bit struggling to understand, how it's all going to kind of work. It kind of gets a bit chaotic. It kind of loses its way. and it kind of struggles to kind of hold the story together as the film kind of goes on. It's like a lot of decent ideas, and they don't really know what to do with it. There's even a couple of moments of light horror here and there that light comedy, sorry, here and there that again feels at odds with the film. It's like they're trying to throw too much at it and it doesn't all stick, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a grimy, dark, gritty horror. I think the performances were all strong, even though I didn't like some of the characters. And it almost becomes as well like a sitcom at times, if that makes sense. And I think you'd know what I mean if you watched it. There's this scene where, you know, they're running around trying to catch something, arguing amongst themselves, and, you know, trying to catch something like you and I were trying to catch a spider in our front room, sort of thing, panicking and arguing and stressing, and but what they're trying to catch is far worse, if you like. It was almost it felt like a sitcom sketch at times, and that's what I mean. I just couldn't settle into the film in a sense of what it was trying to do, and then it gets to a point where it gets a little bit predictable. So I don't know. I think it's one of those. I think that when you look at some of the reviews that I've seen on this, they kind of make sense. It feels like it's a bit messy, this film. It feels like it's a bit muddled. It feels like it doesn't necessarily know what it wants to do with itself, but there is some nice ideas here. The premise is interesting. Some of the body horror is pretty graphic, and there are some, you know, genuinely creepy moments in the film here and there. So if you're a fan of kind of body horror and Lovecraftian stuff and something different in regards to demonic possession, you know, there is a film underneath all this mess. It's just you got to wade through like the slow pace and the uninteresting characters to kind of get to some of the better elements of the film. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.